Hello, and just wanted to add to last time when we were talking about forced psychiatry and ending slavery in Australia, and being in a lockdown and trying to have a legal rally that fits within the government's new laws that have curtailed the protest against forced psychiatry. What is needed here? We've got the population in Melbourne calling out scam. We understand that the medico industry is a scam. Yes, we need to go a bit further in recognising as Australians that there is the most horrible situation happening with a medical scam since Federation. Now, when the population has very little idea of what it is like to be actually enslaved and tortured by psychiatrists and harassed by them, people think that they can make up excuses for the violating psychiatrists, or argue the point that they know nothing about, and put it to us who have been violated by psychiatrists and protest against it worldwide. It is a worldwide coup on forced psychiatry. That is why we are having a lockdown. It is important to get that point across with the population of Australia so we can protest more effectively, get these null and void laws removed, the laws on a federal level that are sitting there in the legislature and in direct conflict with the anti-slavery legislation and other legislation that is totally against forced human experimentation and the Black Triangle experiments that are being forced on people through aged centres and psychiatric facilities. When we're talking about belief is what psychiatrists try to attack people on. Belief isn't allowed by psychiatrists and clinical psychologists. That's a very obvious thing to people who have been put through this. Maybe not obvious to the public, though, because they have a different view shown to them through propaganda. That the truth is not permitted to be uttered. That is the reality for victims of psychiatrists. It makes conjectural beliefs, symbolism, understandings that are sacred or skillful to people, the actual minimal violation. That the real violation here is that the person is not allowed, who is subjected to forced psychiatry, is not allowed to utter the whole truth and nothing but the truth, because they're enslaved by the psychiatrists, they're being tortured by the psychiatrists, or even if they've been previously enslaved and tortured, they're then considered a lesser witness. And while psychiatrists are permitted to openly and ritually make slanderous and libelous statements about the people that they're torturing and enslaving for profit and power, victims of psychiatrists are not allowed to tell the truth, because when victims of psychiatrists tell the truth, the pain thresholds and the torture and the violations that psychiatrists subject people to get far worse. And you only have to look at Garth Daniels' father's blog for his son, www.freegarth.blogspot.com, to know how far psychiatrists will go when they're trying to silence someone, whether it be the father of a child or adult, a progeny, attacking them for another whistleblower, or directly a witness who the psychiatrists want to silence. So that is the worst kind of silencing, that people are not being allowed to speak the truth because of various things in society, including computer, radio, all our electronics and security system. That sort of comes into the factor, and I did touch on that a little bit last time about electronic attack. We'll keep that as minimal as possible, and I'm hoping for people to be gentle about that and understanding that as a person who doesn't use phones or apps, I'm not a device handler or anything like that. I merely know about these things because I've been hit by them. And they're pretty obvious. To know what it is to be hit by covert weaponry. It's very obvious, and we know about it. And I'm reticent about speaking about it now, but it's come out of my mouth because sometimes I just mouth off, you know. Wanted to say another point here, that people enslaved by the psychiatrist are best described as 1,000,001 Australians. It is a quarter of Australians, but the 1,000,001 Australians are the ones who demanded within the last year to be free from forced psychiatry. They've actually asked for the tribunals, they've asked for lawyers and so forth. They haven't got lawyers most of the time, gone to the tribunals. Tribunals are rubber stamped, and they've had to also sit there while they're being tortured by these neurotoxins that shut them down and cause them to twitch and feel pain and feel utterly fatigued, because these are neurotoxins are drugs that are designed to disable. So all your abilities taken away, and suddenly you're a person that is being disabled and never able to have your abilities come back, because those toxins are in the body 24/7 indefinitely, until you can get a whole lot of people protesting with you and get free from forced psychiatry by the sheer numbers and demand your freedom from slavery and torture. Abolish Psychiatry, which is a forming political party in Australia, has supported some people to get free from forced psychiatry, and they are now very strong activists in the community. They were before, but it's brilliant to see people's abilities come back and not be shut down by these horrible neurotoxins. We're hoping for the same to happen to the 1,000,001 Australians currently fighting, and how about a quarter of Australia's population that would not choose forced psychiatry if they had the right to refuse it. Those people who are fighting to be free immediately, and they ask to be free, they're people that are enslaved by the psychiatrists, and they demand freedom. But there's other people who are enslaved by the psychiatrists and are broken under these harsh treatments. Now, we don't want to ignore these people, but it's very hard for those people to stand up and speak out against their violators, because they've been broken in at the point of the biggest protest. They've been broken in the most horrible way. So to ever go to that protest again is excruciatingly painful and scary. So it means a whole lot of people standing with those people, recognising the propaganda that has enveloped Australia since Federation through the eugenicists. Now, it would be really good if all eugenics could be abolished from the Australian legislature. That would be quite a feat, but null and voiding the UNLAWs, the mental health acts of each state and territory, that would be simple, because they are in direct conflict with the rest of the legislature. People who get told that if they don't do what the psychiatrists say, that they'll be forced, and they decide not to challenge it, and and sometimes those people will turn around, become turncoats, and propagate the lies that the psychiatrists demand people recite, and they earn a little income from that. Now, it's not a good look to being a turncoat, especially at this point in the lockdown, where we really have to shift things and we have to get things moving. It's obvious that it is those laws that have to be changed worldwide. Otherwise, this will not be a worldwide coup. It will not make sense to have problems with security in various ways due to conflicts. So it is about removing what is in conflict. So all those people should right now speak their truth, decide to refuse for psychiatry, and people in the community have got to come aboard with that and understand that. And Jesus, it's hard because they've been condemning us for so long, or with all the eugenicist slanders they can give us, all that hate speech. We know it all. We know that's it. And psychiatrists know. They know what they're doing. They know they're killing people. They sit there and they enjoy it, and they take pleasure in it. And that is a person in the community that I do not believe could ever be reformed. They kill, on average, 20 people a year. And if you want to argue about that, look at the ABS statistics. Calculate how many psychiatrists there are in Australia and divide that number up and work it out yourself. 80,000 people die from forced and coerced psychiatric drugs. And as I said before, the people who are coerced to take these things are coerced on the idea of, if you don't, we will drag you. It's not enslaving in the absolute direct sense of drag them off and take them to this facility like the 1,000,001 people who really put up a fight. But you've got to recognise that those people are also being held because they fear far worse. And it's a very real fear because they've actually been subjected to far worse recently, or in the further past. They have been subjected to that. So the idea that if a person doesn't complain, that if we play the game, if a person plays the game and they don't complain to the psychiatrist about the products that the psychiatrist produces, or that they won't be harassed at all, they won't be in any way, and this is extremely flawed, because that's not true. People still get attacked by psychiatrists. Psychiatrists will still expect that person to do their black triangle experiments and so forth and so on. They just won't have the strength of speaking the truth, and they'll be broken, which is a horrible thing to live with for the rest of your life. So what we're looking at here is if we can have people speak the truth, and that can be told, especially because the psychiatrists and clinical psychologists have been so violent and so controlling of the rest of the population and of government officials as well. Let's just say that's happening. I'm not saying that government officials aren't in control or anything like that, because some of them may well be. The ones that are corrupt and support the psychiatrists, they may well be in control, or they may be somewhat puppeteered, let's just say. Now that would not be a good thing, would it? So we don't really want to think that. We want to think that perhaps some of these government officials know what they're doing, or maybe we want to totally condemn them like the Melbourne protesters have done so far. They've gone straight for government and the police, and only touched on the medicos. Though the first protests, if you remember, in Melbourne, were actually going straight for the main issues, but they were using certain topics that got focused on by the media. So they were focusing in on forced injections. Now, they didn't focus in on forced psychiatry in the mainstream media, and we're uncertain why, but we know there were protesters there that were protesting against that, we were told later. So, and they were also protesting against covert weaponry and frequencies, but they use the term 5G, which is a mistake because there are spruikers out there that want to call covert weaponry a medical condition and offer pills and things for it. And they want to do the same for toxic hygiene products, and they want to do the same with human traits. So it's a big human experimentation bowl, and the one thing is that Australians like is having a choice. Australians also like being able to blurt out the truth. So here we have a situation where we've got slavery, and we've got torture, and we've got forced human experimentation, and the mainstream media aren't talking about it. They're avoiding it like anything, as if something really scary is going to happen to them. And I don't want to go there and say, no, that nothing scary is not going to happen to them. Let's just say we give all our support to those people who do speak out against this vile, cruel regime that has been allowed and enabled by government ministers, the legislators who allow forced psychiatry in the legislature. So we need all those acts, those mental health acts in each state and territory to be repealed by the state territory ministers, or we need them to be made null and void as zombie legislation that really doesn't fit with the current era of anti-slavery and anti-torture society. That's our other laws there. So you can't have both worlds, Australia. You've either got to decide you're an evil dictatorship or you're pro-human rights, and that's what we want to happen. And we must do this because the psychiatrists and clinical psychologists that were short-term psych, as they call themselves, they've been so violent and so eager over the number of years they've been around to expand the number of people they torture and enslave. And along have come more medico experiments and on the population. So you're just looking, as people in the mainstream media, at the surface things, the masks and the new things coming along. But you've actually got to really address that main issue that is the mental health acts. What are they? They're acts of torture and acts of slavery, and they need to be removed now, not later.